Hello, everyone. Welcome to Creativity-Hive's weekly program. My name is Miriam Haugen, and I am part of the Creativity-Hive team. We help budding videographers achieve massive post-production skills through one-on-one teaching and live group coaching. And our weekly Hangout brings you people working in video from across the globe. So hop on, tell us where you're joining from, and leave comments, ask questions. Today, we have a very special guest, Morgan. And Morgan, I am not going to try to pronounce your last name.
It's a mouthful. It's Prygrocki.
Prygrocki. Okay, that's not so hard. So you have had quite a career in the movie industry and television as well. So tell us your background. Tell us how you got started and what you've done with yourself.
Yeah, sure thing. So I guess the genesis of my career really started during childhood. I was a child actor, really only doing extra work, but I loved it as an excuse to skip school. So I did that. I did that for a little while growing up, and I realized that I really enjoyed more of the technical aspects behind the scenes than actually being in front of a camera. During high school and college, I got super into lighting design and stage management for theater productions, and ultimately, I had always been interested in cinematography and filmmaking. I was the kid that had the video camera that would show up to parties and cut together videos. So it was kind of a natural fit to end up at film school. I went to San Francisco State University. At the time, their film program was almost exclusively 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter film. So in the grand scheme of things, learning film was definitely a worthwhile exercise. But the second I graduated, I graduated into a market where everyone was beginning to transition over to more digital formats. So I did what any 18 or 21-year-old does. I maxed out all of my credit cards. I invested in my own Sony HDR HD 1000U camera, and I did a lot of freelancing gigs just out of college, just to kind of hone a lot of those skills and put them into practice. So shot a lot of corporate video, a lot of weddings. I shot a funeral once. That was a little weird. I don't know if I would necessarily sign up to do that again. But I ultimately ended up at Red Digital Cinema, kind of at the most perfect time in their business when they had just launched their DSMC line of cameras. So this was just after the Red one was released, and this was their new body redesign. So during my time there, I'd say I'd spent the better part of the first 2 years convincing a lot of old school DPs why they should even consider moving away from film and investing into digital formats. So I think that's probably the one place where my film background actually really did come in handy, because I actually did know what I was talking about when we were talking about things like film stock and loading cameras and whatnot. And ultimately, I spent about almost 7 years at Red. And throughout my tenure there, that was the rise of 3D, when every movie was being shot and released in 3D. So that gave me a really good background in building 3D rigs. And this was also right as VR was coming to be more and more popular. So we had a huge influx of folks that were looking to build 180 rigs, 360 rigs for all different types of applications and events, ranging from live sports to film production to very meta, if you will, R&D type applications, even defense applications, actually. So I feel as though I was really in at kind of the ground floor when VR came to market, and as a result, that opened up a really good opportunity for me to be employee number one of a company called NCAM, which is a camera tracking solution for both live broadcast and visual effects and TV and episodic applications. NCAM is a camera tracking system that allows you to visualize CG elements or virtualized sets that are being projected onto a green screen on a reference monitor off to the side of set. So instead of having your talent interact with, let's say, a tennis ball on a stick or some gaff tape on a green screen, trying to get a better line of sight for where their interactions are going to be with an alien or some sort of creature, NCAM actually allows you to visualize what those CG elements, where they're going to be placed, and lets you interact with them in real time. But directors and DPs really embraced a lot of that technology because it gives them a whole new window into what sort of shots are going to end up working in post, having that visual reference on set in real time. So it gives a lot of the on-set creatives a lot more opportunity to iterate and play around with some of their planned shots. So from there, I did a brief stint at Lee Filters, which is a branch of Panavision. I was GM there for a little bit. So that's a little bit more on the lighting and camera filtration side of the spectrum. And ultimately, my friends at Disguise reached out regarding a really good opportunity to completely build their virtual production business from the ground up, given the fact that the success of Mandalorian was everywhere and the pandemic was shutting down a lot of productions that couldn't shoot either because of travel restrictions or just general COVID red tape. COVID really did slow the market down for a solid few months where, with all the COVID precautions on set and also just the ability of navigating who's comfortable and who's not comfortable coming to set, virtual production, I think, really got the big push that it probably needed to, not only in terms of adoption, but probably because of adoption technologically as well. A lot of advancements have been made much faster than I'd say the past 5 years combined. So at Disguise, I got the opportunity of working with basically every type of production technology on a virtual production set, ranging from large scale LED volumes to a variety of different camera tracking systems, whether those are optical camera tracking systems or motion capture systems, and working with a lot of system integrators that are working to build a lot of these volumes that are currently available today. So I've been at Adobe for about 7 months now, and I've actually known the team here for several years at this point. So it's great to be working with friends, but I'd say that I'm probably most excited about today the opportunity that virtual production presents, in that it post is no longer siloed from production. I feel like post is moving into pre-production, or everything is just becoming simply production. I think if you talk to anybody that goes to film school, one of the reasons why they are drawn to that particular focus is because they like the collaborative team aspect. And so I love the ability of being able to work with both folks on set and in post. And given my background, I've always kind of felt like I've been split between those two worlds. So the emergence of virtual production and how quickly it's being adopted really excites me, because I no longer have to choose between the two.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm going to bring Neil and Mo on here.
Hello. Turn on your lights, Mo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
Mo,
sorry.
you're looking
One of my
dark.
lights has decided to kill itself. I'm so sorry. Megan, how are you doing? I'm so sorry I didn't get a chance to say hi earlier. We had a bit of an issue. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's quite all right. I go by Mo too sometimes. That's my nickname. So we're in good company.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you some. Are you, just off the bat, are you the WoW girl? Yes.
Am I the wild girl?
The WoW, WOW.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh gosh. I can't believe you pulled that up. I can
Yeah, I did.
I can explain that. Actually, that's my dad's brand that you are pulling up. My dad actually invented a water purification system that is actually ideal for third world countries. It runs on running water. Now I'm becoming a salesperson for my dad here, but it's a water reverse osmosis unit. My dad tricked me into that picture because he's like, yeah, why don't you come down? We're taking some marketing photos. It would really help me out if you would take some pictures that I can have in my brochure. And of course, my dad blows it up and puts it on the side of a truck and throws it on every box and package that's going out of the water machine. So yes, if you look up my face, that's probably what it
Miriam,
would
if you could go to the Lucid link, and you will see Morgan's folder there, and I've put in a picture that starts with the letter W. So
Okay.
you cannot miss it. You Google your name, and that's what populates throughout.
Really?
So, yes,
Is it Morgan
yes,
Prygrocki or Morgan Beal?
yes.
Beal is my maiden name.
Yeah, Bill. Yes,
Interesting.
it's both. It's both. I mean, when you do Bill, there's more Wow Girl, there's more osmosis. And I'm like, does this person actually work for Adobe, or can two people with such a diverse surname actually live on the same planet? And I did a whole lot of research, and I said, no, it's the same person. She looks exactly the same. And then there's one in your wedding dress, right? I think it was the
Okay.
wedding
Oh,
or your photo
maybe.
shoot.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Wow. That's great. Yeah. Thanks, Dad, for that. And the best part of all of that is that I showed up to shoot other people for him. But I think
Right.
this was all just a ploy for my dad to come to his studio to do that. So yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
It's really lovely. I mean, it's a great thing, osmosis. I heard you talk a lot about virtual production, and there's, everyone's moved over to it. It's transitioning almost to 100% for people who can manage the affordability to be able to shoot on a virtual set. But VR, I mean, VR is something that I wanted to ask you about, and how do you think the future for VR is? It had a bit of a quick rise and plateaued in a big way, and then decided to disappear almost completely off the market. People made their money off what they could at that time. Google Glasses and all these things came about. But what do you feel the future of VR actually would be in this industry?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So I'll address the elephant in the room with VR. There have been a number of VR companies that have come in really hot to the market and have quickly fizzled out. And I think there's a couple barriers for entry, but honestly, from my perspective, the biggest barrier for entry is really, I'm interested to see what Apple is going to do, because the iPhone dominates. I'm not sure of the latest statistics, but I want to say almost 80% of the U.S. market. And I think the fact that a lot of the VR headsets, at least that had some sort of cell phone connected to it, were all Samsung, which just doesn't really have a ton of market placement within the US. The other part is, half of the population actually gets sick from watching VR. There's only so long that you can be in a headset. And a lot of that queasiness that users feel is can be attributed to how it's captured in the first place. A lot of it has to do with how close together the camera sensors are to each other in order to achieve that right magic parallax, where users aren't going to feel uncomfortable. I think if memory serves me correct, that special secret sauce is around 62 to 65 millimeters apart. And it's really, really hard to get two sensors to simulate right and left eye and be that close together, and also have a camera body that's working around that and not overheating and not having issues. So part of it is, there's a barrier with the headset and how we view that content. I think everyone's waiting to see what the Apple headset's going to be, and I feel as though almost every single Apple announcement date that comes near, I feel like everyone's kind of like waiting on the edge of their seat. Is this going to be the time when they actually announce something? But part of it is really just how the content is captured, and I think you're a little bit limited in capturing VR content on standard cameras, because you're really only viewing a scene from that particular perspective. It's not interactive necessarily. It doesn't really allow you to interact with that environment. it's really just like you're being dropped inside a forest and you can look around, and that's cool. I think where a lot of those VR applications are headed towards are more of like the metaverse type applications, where it's actually a 3D environment that is dynamic, where you can interact with certain elements. But in order for that to be a reality, that's a lot more complex to build those type of worlds, because you basically have to run everything in a game engine.
I mean, there's a really interesting girl on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if I'll send you her link. I can't remember her name. She's a VR artist. She's blonde. She has this ponytail in all her videos, and she does absolutely insane work in a virtual environment. I don't know how she gets it right. She's got a gift, and I think that would possibly be the implementation, like you said, for the metaverse, and that's quite an interesting term. It was, pinned at Marvel and metaverse, this and metaverse, and nobody really understands what that means. But we actually already there. It's come far quicker than we actually hope to have imagined. Might hark the end of days, but we're not quite sure about that kind of thing just yet. Are you working in that environment at Adobe? I mean, are you guys doing any kind of interesting stuff?
Metaverse is something that's certainly come up. It's almost like the word of the week, I think. I think it's something that's definitely exciting for our team. And I think from an Adobe perspective, we're in a unique position in that we have a lot of those creative tools that will ultimately help create what we see as the metaverse. So while I don't have too much to share, there's not too much I can say about any definitive plans. I think I can say with certainty that a lot of the experiences that users are going to experience within that space are going to be powered by Adobe tools. We've got really powerful video tools with a really mature user base of folks that know the ins and outs of Premiere and After Effects. But we also have this wonderful suite of Substance apps as well that I think are only going to grow in popularity as a lot of these 3D experiences become more mainstream. And then now, if you bring in Camera to Cloud and Frame.io and all of the the workflow collaboration that's going to be required in order to execute some of these projects, I think we're pretty close to having a complete suite of apps to power any type of experience you'd want to see in the metaverse.
Well, I'm kind of smiling to myself because Frame.io was acquired finally, and it's just kind of disappeared for a little while. Substance was acquired, didn't have a massive launch or anything of the sort. It's just kind of there in the background, and it's kind of doing its thing. Camera to Cloud, Lucid Link, that's there as well. And Adobe's been awfully mysteriously quiet for a change. They're normally not very mysterious. It's quite unusual for them to not be making a lot of noise just yet. So, knowing that you're under NDA, I fully understand that. But if you just smile, maybe we know that Adobe's about to do something really cool. It's a while to break an NDA.
I'm gonna kick in here and say I've known Patrick Palmer, who's the head of all of the Adobe video apps, Premiere Pro, After Effects, and Audition since April of 2014. When he asked me to have dinner with him at NAB, my first NAB, and including, you're talking of the VR was kind of interesting because my first real experience with a VR headset was at NAB, probably 2018, and I got a phone call from Patrick. I was, just wandering around looking at a few things on the main floor, and he said, I'm done with these meetings, because of course he was having meeting after meeting after meeting, and he says, I need to do something for fun. Meet me over at the VR pavilion in room 1. So I immediately said sure, and went over there, and they had this whole thing where you could try various things, and we tried some things. One of them was we're going up and down an elevator in a spaceship launch platform at Cape Canaveral, and various things, and we both made it through one, started into the second one, and took it off, and was going, man, this is not pleasant. And he was going, yeah, I think they got some work to do on that. We talked for a little bit and parted, but having been around Patrick for so long, and I normally spend some time with him at an NAB and a number of the other Adobe people. It's always interesting, and like I loved watching you talking because you did such a great job of talking around the things that are coming without actually saying anything that could specifically be
Get you in trouble?
Oh no!
and
Y'all are gonna get me in trouble. No,
yeah,
I will say
and
this though.
this dance that you have to do because Adobe Corporate has very strong NDA requirements on what's under development. And even though, okay, so I know most all of the people in charge of the programs, and so a lot of times people think, well, I would know probably everything going on there. There are times when I know things that, yeah, it's maybe a little past what the average person knows. But even then, they can't talk about that stuff with me, even though they know I'm not going to say anything about it. It just if they wanted to share something, I could never feel comfortable saying anything about it. But there is a strong corporate sense of we have to keep some of this stuff back behind the curtain, and so when you spend so much time around people that are doing this dance of what we can talk about and around, and there's stuff, a lot of stuff that they know that they can't talk about. What you start paying attention to are the silences.
Well, let me.
What don't they say is often more illuminating than what they do say, and but it's fun. It's a kick to be around and guess. Michael Zalapsky and David Arbor and some of the other people that I've met and worked with at NAB and Adobe community professionals groups and everything. We always sit and laugh about what we think is probably going on and make speculations based on what we've heard and everything. Because it's what you do when you're around something like that. But it's always fun then to see what you actually do come out with when it doesn't get shipped.
Well, I will say I love to speculate as well. I think when you look at things like what we define as the metaverse, I think there is nothing to do other than speculate right now. Anybody who tells you that we have the secret sauce to the metaverse and it's going to be exactly what we say it is, I would question why they feel as though they maybe they have a crystal ball that I don't. And full disclosure, this is no hinting or promise as to what Adobe's plans are around these types of applications. But what I'm pointing out is that we do provide the backbone of a lot of these creative experiences, whether they're they're videos that you're going to view in the metaverse, whether it's characters or gameplay that you're going to play in the metaverse. Our tools will be used for all of that in some capacity. I think the question is kind of what does that look like a year from now? What does that look like 2 years from now? And how is this workflow eventually going to evolve over time? I think there's a subsection of folks that are probably a lot of folks that have read Ready Player One, but I think that there's some anxiety around that potential outcome of it just being a virtual world where the actual world is so terrible that everybody just escapes to some sort of virtualized instance where it's not as bad. I think that's kind of a really dystopian view of how to look at it. I would prefer to see the glass half full in that I think it could be a really good opportunity for a new way of collaborating and a new way of how we entertain ourselves. I think the last decade or so, all content has kind of been migrating towards content that we consume. It's not just going to be video games. It's not just going to be TV shows. It's not just going to be concerts. All of this type of content effectively can kind of merge into closer to a single type of content that we can consume in a more experiential way. Now, whether or not those are going to be VR headsets, that remains to be seen. I think the challenge with VR headsets is I feel like even more cut off. I don't know about any of you, but when I'm in a headset, like there's no interaction with other players. maybe with certain video games, but I think the person who cracks the code on that is going to probably be at the forefront of what this ends up becoming. So I don't know where that's going to lead us. Hopefully it's not to the Ready Player One scenario I mentioned.
Well, everyone asks, how did Apple create the M1 chip? And there's a lot of speculation around why they created the M1 chip. The M1 chip was not made for Adobe. It wasn't made for Final Cut Pro. It wasn't made for video editing. It's made for something quite uniquely different. So if you've been watching the patents that Apple's filed, they've kept quiet for a while. They've just not been filing patents. Suddenly, they filed a patent for something that's got nothing to do with a mobile phone, but it's got to do with communication. And that's just really weird. And a new camera that doesn't go in a mobile phone. So there's a lot of speculation about this. When it comes to the dystopian point of view and the player one kind of whole world, I think there's three kind of little gaps in that, where you see the people that make the content lovely, they enjoy it, they have a life. You get the rest of the world who gets in there because life just doesn't do it for them in reality. And then you get the people who really are not interested in it at all. Richard Branson still jumping out of planes and so on. So I think we kind of headed for that. We almost at that point where, I wouldn't say dystopian, but I would say we so immersed in the in a semi-virtual reality environment that it actually has become a little bit frightening. If you look at kids today, I mean, they can chat to each other over WhatsApp across the table, tell them to put their phones down. They don't know how to talk without an emoji. So it's so important that whoever this technology rests upon, it's a massive responsibility for them to manage it correctly. However, given looking at the movies, and what's about to happen, because everything that has happened in the movies already, right? So we're at the cusp of something really groundbreaking that, what man does with that to better mankind is something. Elon Musk is also down there in the doing
We're
stuff.
getting into philosophy
Yeah, so
oh my gosh.
So my question, I'm so sorry, this is my we could go on forever. My question is, what does a senior strategic development manager do at Adobe?
Nice pivot. So my part of my role here is on strategy and development is working with a lot of the Hollywood studios and brands to better place app and feature usage. So we kind of sit between. We're a little bit tied into product, a little bit tied into engineering, and we interface directly with clients to make sure that they're getting the most out of the tools that they're using on the video side of things. So my role is centered around more Premiere and After Effects type users, but I do, my background just also happens to be working with some of the 3D assets in real time in an on-set capacity. So I do kind of have a little bit of a window into that world as well. But as far as my role at Adobe, it's specific to video products. But I think video is evolving. So we'll see how the next couple of years go.
So you and David Humphrey have been spotted on the set of Avatar 2 and 3, right? Yes.
Oh gosh, I wish. Actually, maybe I don't wish. I don't know. That show's been in production for so long.
So many years.
It's very anticipated. No. However, some of the products that I was representing before were on set, so can't say much more than that.
So it's quite an exciting environment that you work in, yes?
Yes. I think probably what I like most about this role is that no 2 days are the same, and it gives us an opportunity to chat with a wide breadth of users. One day I could be chatting with a major broadcaster. The next day I could be chatting about 5G with a telecom company, and another day I could be talking to an indie production that's decided to incorporate Frame.io and use camera to cloud instead of leveraging a post house. So there's a lot of variety in the folks that we work with. And I think despite the fact that we might have gone a little bit quiet after the Frame.io acquisition, I can certainly tell you things are not quiet from my perspective, and that Frame.io is such a slick platform that has so many users joining every single day, and it's well known within the video community. So I think, you know, looking forward to the next year, that's probably what I'm most excited about, is really seeing how Frame.io is going to position itself within the Adobe suite of products, because it's a really, really powerful platform that I think is very timely, given the fact that I don't really think anybody is going to be going back to the office after this. I think everything is migrating to a hybrid scenario. So how do we find effective ways to enable our teams to collaborate without physically being in the same location? And I think, you know, Frame.io is part of a select few products that actually can deliver on that.
So the race is actually on post-COVID or during COVID now, to make sure that collaboration across the world really speeds up and is adopted by almost everyone. And that's, I think, the race between giant companies developing together and in partnerships and collaboration, like Apple with the M1 chip. Do you guys work still with LucidLink? Is it still quite an integrated part of your workflow systems?
Absolutely. And actually, a common misconception is that like LucidLink and Frame.io do the same thing or somehow competing. They're actually complementary products. And, you know, I think LucidLink has also been one of the key the key saving graces, COVID considered, to really enabling a workflow using our productions environment and still being able to work in, you know, some sort of remote or hybrid environment. So LucidLink is, and have you had LucidLink on the show? I actually probably should ask that. Are you guys, I know you mentioned.
Yeah, we actually,
okay.
Mo's got a nice smirk going there, because no, we haven't actually had Peter or whatnot on, but we actually have been working with LucidLink, Mo and I, for quite some time now, thanks to David Helmley and a few others. So
oh, good.
You have quite a bit of.
Well, you'll have to have them
all the
on
material
there
for this broadcast going back and forth between Miriam and myself and Mo. And of course, we're in Oregon. He's in Cape Town, South Africa. And our file space is an Amazon S3 server in London. And of course, it's all moved by LucidLink, which is incredible. I mean, we've had things.
We couldn't live without LucidLink.
Oh, no. We've had things where he's uploaded a folder of material while we're on WhatsApp phone, right? He uploads a folder of material to our LucidLink file space and says, okay, I've got some stuff here. I want you to go ahead and work this in Premiere Pro. And so I'll go ahead and open up my file browser, because LucidLink works as if you have an additional drive on your computer, for those that don't know. So it's like a virtual drive. So I open up my my file manager, go to the LucidLink drive, and this folder is already appearing. And so I wait a few seconds, and then I start seeing files appearing in that folder. And I just grab those files. They aren't even completely uploaded from South Africa to London yet, right? I grab those files and bring them into Premiere, import them into Premiere. Premiere imports them. I'm starting to put them on a timeline to play them back. They're not even completely uploaded from South Africa yet, but parts of them are, and Premiere is able to work with it because of the way LucidLink goes. That is a freaking amazing program.
We full disclosure, I'm not a sales rep for LucidLink, and I'm not getting a kickback, but I think between me and Dave, I think our close rate for showing folks LucidLink, for those who end up adopting that solution, is like 99%. They've got, I mean, they come from the government sector. So in terms of, you know, security, I don't think you're going to find, you know, another company that even comes close to the gold standard of what they offer. And, you know, we launched, Premiere Productions right as the pandemic hit, and Productions was really in response to a lot of the editors out there that kind of prefer the way that the Avid bin structure works. It's a really great way of organizing files, especially for long form production. You can segment your work out into individual projects. You can segment it out by episodes, by shoot days. It's a really, really flexible workflow, but it was designed for on-prem users. And so with the introduction of LucidLink into the mix, that's kind of been the secret key that's enabled a lot of those on-prem users to have kind of a similar connected experience. And now that Frame.io is coming into the mix as well, you know, that also incorporates that review and approval aspect, and Camera to Cloud if you're so inclined as well. So a lot of folks are storing their production in LucidLink, and that enables you to collaborate from Cape Town to the Pacific Northwest in real time. So I have nothing but fantastic things to say about LucidLink. I've even got, you know, family members on it at this point for a variety of other applications.
Yeah.
Personally, you know, coming from, you know, a world where people were still trying to manage like, you know, Dropbox and Google Drive and WeTransfer, there's a lot of other solutions out there, but none that are quite as slick as what LucidLink has. So
well, I think Adobe is a little bit what can I say? Not too excited because they couldn't acquire LucidLink because IBM beat them to it. Well, IBM didn't acquire them, but they kind of partnered with them. So Peter and George are really cool guys. I mean, we've had numerous chats with them, and they seriously cool. So we're going to get them on the show, but they gone a very corporate at the moment, and they, you know, structuring and redeveloping and growing and so forth. They just moved to the new offices, like you possibly know. So I know Adobe wanted to get involved with them thoroughly, and that acquisition possibly had been spoken about, but then they got a call from IBM, which in a way was a good piece of news because it can be adopted more globally for different applications beside just, you know, video editing and that kind of stuff. As a storage medium, it's insanely fast. It's ridiculously quick. For cutting, you know, on the timeline though, it still has some way to go. 4K, you're still not cutting real time really. They have some work to do on that, but I'm sure they're going to get there. So I think it's a great technology. It just has to be worked on a little bit more. And with Frame.io coming into play, like you said, it's completely different compared to LucidLink. But if there's some homologation and some synergy between the two, it makes for the ideal workflow. A little bit of background, Neil and I, we've broken most things Adobe. That's our job. So when Team Projects was launched, they asked us to try to test it and try and do something with it. And we killed it. I mean, we killed it to the point where they took it off the shelf. And they said, can you guys give us the solution on how to rebuild it? And then productions came along and, you know, whatever else comes along. So we do this kind of stuff. My question to you would be, going back to VR.
Mo and I will find the way.
We find the way to break things, yes. You know, so going back to the question about VR, the implementation, like for HoloLens, that's very comfortable. It's a really great piece of hardware. It just didn't take off, unfortunately, the HoloLens. But I think a really cool application for it would be Adobe Max. There's not a lot of movement beside the intro videos and so forth. And I think it might go that way. It would be a great idea that, you know, how do you get 500,000 VR headsets out? So Samsung is currently working on something in the background with VR like 3D technology, and then LG came in with, you know, non-active 3D glasses so that you could just watch. There's something in the pipeline about screens being launched that allows you to kind of run semi-VR content without having a headset on. But that's soon to come. So there's a lot of whispers about the future soon.
But if you've seen some of that display technology, I would also say, you know, like 3D TVs and lenticular displays and those types of tech, I feel like are even almost more edge than like the type of consumer that's going to say, you know what, a VR headset isn't for me, isn't going to go pick up like a lenticular display and be like, this is it. Like those are the exact people who are like, what is this? I definitely don't want this either. So I think, honestly, I think there could be some cool applications, you know, just around interactivity, you know, like it doesn't necessarily need to be in a headset, like just being able to explore certain environments, even on a TV or laptop or iPhone or any device, really, I think is kind of a good, you know, landing pad to getting people onto, you know, those more immersive types of experiences. So yeah, I and like with anything, you know, I think there's a big opportunity around sports, at least in the US. Like I think sporting events would also be a good way of kind of trying to transition a lot of folks into getting more buy-in. But it's really just
Yeah,
finding the right way of presenting that. You know, who wouldn't want to be field level watching the Super
absolutely,
Bowl? So
Well,
absolutely.
one area that is getting a lot of use in VR, from my understanding and reading a number of things, is of course the kinds of things where you want to have a human set of eyeballs, but it's not safe for a human to be. Both, say, underwater circumstances, when you have radiation involved, things like that, where you have a VR camera setup on a robotic device that goes in so that you can have a human that can use that in easily and just be turning and looking around and adjusting controls and doing things pretty much as if they were in the existence without having to be there, where it's either 20,000 feet deep, or the rads are a little bit above what you would really prefer to be around. And so that kind of thing is kind of pushing the outer ends of the tech of the whole thing. So, but it'll be, as always, it'll be interesting to see what gets down to consumer use, and how fast it gets down.
I think we're
yeah, I
years
mean,
away, decades away, Morgan, in my opinion, from anything VR. I mean, which is also the same with the question I was going to ask you about Aero and AR. You know, it's just died suddenly. It wasn't realistic enough. It was, so I'm not sure how Adobe's looking at AR tech at the moment. Are they going further into development, or is it just kind of plateaued out?
that's a great question. You know, I'm not as tied in with that team. I actually really do. I do love the Arrow product, though. I think, you know, the closest we got from a consumer standpoint to really embracing AR was with the Pokemon Go
Yes.
little flash in the pan. Like, I
Yeah.
think that in itself was a fantastic case study for what AR uh, could be. And it was so weird. I don't know how long was that, like a 2 month period? It seemed like it was
It
just like a
was
matter of weeks.
yeah,
It came on
Yeah.
the
weeks.
market and then like completely disappeared to never
Yeah.
be heard from again. So you know, a lot of the AR stuff though, you don't realize it, but you know, when I was at NCAM, we did the first wireless AR show for the Super Bowl from the pitch level. And there's AR graphics that are incorporated into news and sport broadcasts every day. So I mean, AR is kind of already here, but from a consumer level, I think, you know, if you're talking more of, you know, kind of like the Pokemon Go side of things, I think it's about finding like the right experience and right platform to position that for more widespread use, because it is fun. I do think we're going to see more of that. It's just about what's going to be the next biggest thing.
So what you're saying but not saying is that Adobe's about to acquire Unreal, right?
No, no, definitely not. Now you're definitely getting me in trouble. No,
No.
no, I can't. Sadly, I can't speak on
That would
behalf
be
of what they're.
crazy. I mean, if they had to do that, it would be something else.
Okay. Okay, guys, we need to start wrapping things up. Any last parting shots here?
Yeah, just a quick question for Morgan. Why did you leave Red for Adobe? Is there a reason?
Oh, well, I didn't leave Red for Adobe. I left Red for NCAM. Actually, it was a really, really hard decision because I'd say 90% of my best friends today are all from Red. I married my counterpart at Red, so in some
Oh,
ways I feel
okay.
like I never left. But
Fantastic.
it was really an opportunity to really start getting into some of the more bleeding edge visual effects workflows. And once you experience it on set and see actors and directors light up when they're like, I no longer have to just imagine where these CG elements are going to end up.
Yeah.
It's that moment right there that really sold it for me. So otherwise I wouldn't have left. It's a great product. You know, I believe it's got some of the best specs out there. I love Airy too, though. They're both great products, and I love camera hardware. But ultimately, why I joined Adobe, the culture here is unmatched, and the products we've got a product for everyone. Whether you're making and signing documents, or whether you want to get into AR development, 3D development, you want to cut together, any sort of project, whether that's long form or short form. Adobe is a large company with a lot of products and a lot of people, but I really appreciate and respect what they've done for creatives. And ultimately, what gets me up in the morning is I like telling stories. I like being creative, and this role gives me the opportunity to talk to every type of creative you could possibly run into. So I
can wrap it up like the following statement. If I was in a pool, and I was soaking wet, and I had a whole tub of water already, I would still buy your dad's water if I spoke to you.
It tastes like Dasani and Aquafina, which is statistically the flavor profile that most
There
people
you go.
prefer.
See, Adobe's
And it's
lucky
green.
to have her. It's amazing. She's awesome. Thank you so much, Morgan. It was an absolute pleasure.
All right.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.